folks, it's time for Facebook Live. In fact, we're a few minutes late. Sorry, we had a little technical glitch, so if you've been sitting by, I appreciate your patience. This is the first in a series. Actually, we've been doing a series. Welcome if it's your first time joining us. And these are Facebook Lives that are following the theme #FamilyTalk. And it is a campaign that we're working on that is aiming to arm parents with tools and advice in order for them to be the effective change agent in reducing underage drinking. So you can also get collateral materials on my YouTube channels. We archive these Facebook Lives, and tonight we're giving you specific information about the influence of social media and your role as a parent to be the interface to educate and guide your child to navigate social media in a way that makes it a positive, constructive experience rather than something that can increase their underage drinking behaviors. So how we're going to do this is I've got 5 quick tips for you. Then we're going to open it to Q&A and I'll take your questions. But having said that, I'm here with a team of people that are going to curate questions. I want this to be a community event. This is about us supporting one another, sharing and dialoguing amongst each other, besides just having access to me as an expert. So in the comment field below, please chime in. In fact, I'm going to ask you right now, are your kids on social media? I want to hear from you. What platforms are they on? What games are they playing? Where are they spending their time? So let's just get chatting about what's going on in our family lives so that we can build up that connection in our community. And then, because it's really important for me to know that we're having an impact, I want to invite you to participate in a quick, and I mean quick, how long does that survey take, Catherine? 3 minutes?
3 minutes.
It's 3 minutes of your time, but it's important enough to us that the first 100 people that complete the survey following our discussion will be receiving a $5 Tim Hortons card. And for anybody who engages, makes a comment, asks a question, forwards to a friend, completes a survey, we're going to put your name in a draw, and one person out of that compiled group of people will win a $250 Visa gift card. So hopefully you'll appreciate that I understand that this is taking up your time and that you're helping me, and hopefully this is reciprocal and that I'm helping you as well. So please start right now, start putting questions in the comment field. So here are the 5 topics that I'm just going to go over quickly, and then we're going to dive deep into each one of them. I want to talk about the importance of why parents need to educate themselves about social media and how not to get too freaked out about that. I'm secondly going to talk about your child's online identity. Third, I want to talk about the difference between supervising kids online, which we need to do, versus stalking your kids online, which sometimes parents mistakenly do. Fourth, I want to talk about the issue around challenges, how kids do these online daring challenges and how to parent around that piece. And then last but not least, we're going to be looking at how we can address educating our children about the difference between those relationships that they have online, which are significant, obviously, but also the balance between that and their in real life friendships and the conversations that have to happen around that. So that's our 5 topics. Now I'm going to dig deep and spend a little bit more time. So stick with me here for our 10 minutes of education, and then we're going to open up the floor to questions. So are people chiming in with, are their kids on social media?
Yeah, we're starting to see some people.
Yeah. You got Fortnite? Anyone got Fortnite going on in your house?
Yes.
It's the bomb. It's the thing. All right. So I'm sure that when I mentioned that, half of you shuddered and the other half of you go, yeah, I play it with my kids. I mean, it seems to be that we have a mindset that we are either more social media savvy and we enjoy it and we kind of live in that space, or we're very frightened and fearful. We have a general bad attitude about it. And that's fine. I don't know which of those 2 camps and maybe somewhere along a continuum in between that you live. But the important piece that I want to get across here is that for people who say, I don't like it, I don't want it, I'm keeping it out of my kid's life, it's really not a choice for you to stay naive about it and to simply put up barriers. That in this day and age, social media is part of our children's life. It is part of their culture. And if maybe they're not on it now, but it's coming down the road. And because as a parent, if you think about the definition of being a parent, it's our job to prepare our kids for the world in which they will participate and need to be functioning. And every single person will be functioning in the realm of social media, which means your kids need to learn these skill sets, and we need to teach them as adults to be on this journey in order to keep them safe. that if you put your head in the sand and you ostrich and you deny that this is part of their experience in 2018 for youth, you're actually doing a disservice. You're letting them down. Yes, they have programs at school. Yes, they have digital literacy. But you are the primary person who's going to educate, socialize, and guide your child. And you have to take that responsibility seriously. And whether you like social media or not, you need to learn a bit about it. Now, that's the part that is the calming part. You don't need to know everything about every single platform, but you do need to know the ones that are the main ones. So again, I'm interested if people set up their kids are online or people.
Yeah, some on Instagram and Snapchat. Yes, lots on Fortnite. Some who are using Messenger, but not all of Facebook.
Yeah.
And lots who are interested, but not necessarily thinking they're ready yet.
So to the point is, if you go to an app store, you're going to think there's like 10 gabillion things you need to know. In fact, you don't. There are the popular platforms right now. Most kids are on, the older teens are on Snapchat, then Instagram, the least are on Facebook. And what we're seeing now, and this is really super important, the developers want to work in parallel with parents. They don't want it to be scary. They want to offer you security. They want to be your ally in keeping our kids safe online. So what you're seeing now is that there's more and more of these companies that are creating better safety features, more parent portals. So Snapchat, actually, Instagram just launched theirs. Facebook now has a messenger that has specific security settings for children. It's actually designed for kids, so it has more safety than having your kids on the regular Facebook Messenger. So as a parent, if you don't want to know everything, you just need to know the big players, those 4 big players, and look at anything, any app, any of these portals, they will have a parenting area. So you need to sit down with your kids, read through it together, and find out, what do we need for safety? What are the ages? What settings need to be made? So it should not feel so overwhelming. And certainly if your kids come to you and saying that they want to be on some new game or something that isn't one of the big contenders, go to commonsensemedia.org. I'm giving an absolute plug. I hope we put the link up, because they're fantastic at vetting what these different apps are to know what are the ages, what's appropriate, what are they going to see, is there violence, is there bad sexual content. And then you can decide for yourself what's appropriate for your family. They're not trying to overlay their values, they're just trying to educate you so you can make an informed decision. So you don't have to be out there researching everything on your own. You can go to those portals that are specifically working with parents to keep kids safe. But you have to put some skin in the game. I'm sorry, you really do. So if you're going to help your kids on social media, you got to understand social media. Don't let it overwhelm you. Number 2, online identity. I think kids need to appreciate that when they are interacting on social media, they are making a footprint. They are making a poster about themselves. It is like their autobiography. It is like a resume. They are leaving a long digital trail that will be permanent about themselves. It is the story of themselves. What do they want that story to look like? I love social media, but I would like to reinforce the idea that it is a tool that we use for embetterment of mankind, that we want it to be positive and constructive. And it can obviously be used. The negative side of the web is out there. We all appreciate that. But if we can say you need to harness these tools for good and get that idea in kids' minds, and we say, how do you want to look to the world? And then a lot of kids will say, well, I'm just going to create a fake account. That's youth have simple thinking. Or they'll say, like, I want to be silly. I understand that I have to have this public persona because Graham is looking at my account, but I'm going to have what's called a Finster account, where you have fun with your friends and you do all your silly mugging, on your other account. But the truth is, even with fake names, Finster accounts, the truth is, in this day and age, if you are going to be a coach looking for your new rep hockey team, if you are Harvard or Yale or a university and you are looking to see who you're going to pick, if you are hiring people for a summer part-time job, you are looking at their social media accounts. And they have the intel through facial recognition software, through their IT hack people. You've got to tell your kids to expect people will find you even in your fake accounts. That you might think you've duped everybody, but in fact, you can never rely on that. What you post is public and people will relate your accounts back. So don't post it. The general rule of thumb is, do you want grandma to see it? Again, most people will say, I don't care if my friends see it. I don't care if my teacher sees it. But grandma, I don't want grandma to see me in that light. Well, there you go. That's the litmus test of whether you should post or not post. You can find other ways to have fun and mug your friends, but you're leaving a digital trail about who you are as a person, and you want that to put your best light forward. So, third, supervision. So this is interesting. Again, when people get kind of freaked out about social media, I kind of like to try to relay it back to things that might happen in the olden days. So if I asked you, your child is talking on the phone, do you pick up the phone line in the basement and listen in on their conversation? Would you call that an appropriate limit and boundary for parents? Overhearing a conversation that they think is private? That's overstepping your bounds. I think it's also overstepping your bounds if you take your kid's phone and out of curiosity, they've left it and you start going through it and reading all their text messages between their friends to kind of find, well, who likes who and who's dissing who and who's seeing who. And that's like reading a diary. That's like picking up the phone and eavesdropping on a conversation. That's inappropriate. It is not inappropriate to say to your child, I need to keep you safe on social media. That is my job. I need to supervise you. I need to make sure that you are a good digital citizen. And the only way that I can do that is by checking in on you. So I need to know your passwords. I need to know what platforms you're in. And I will not reside on them, but I will do spot checks. And the more I do spot checks and everything's going fine, the more privacy and less checking in that I will do. So that would be a condition of them getting a phone. That would be a condition of them getting an account. And if they're not interested in the conditions, then don't access them to having an account. So when you do check in, and if your kids are smart enough to you've gotten through the friending your kids or following your kids, you want to be there quietly in the background. Kind of like if you let them have a house party, that's fine. They're in the basement. You don't go join the party. They're like, Mom, get out of the party. I'm trying to hang with my friends. If you're having a house party, you might open the door at the top of the stairs and listen in to make sure everything's going well and close the door, and that's your little checking in, that you're not engaging. So I don't want you to like all their pictures and comment on, you look so cute. You're gonna get unfollowed or blocked. You're gonna learn a lot more about your kids. You're gonna get a lot more information if you just sort of fade to black and just see how they're representing themselves online. But it's absolutely a requirement that you do that checking. And I would say, honestly, you get more of what you pay attention to. So if you notice that they have been good digital citizens, then you want to say, I love what you're posting. You're doing a really great job. And when there's something that they post that you think is inappropriate, then that's an opportunity for a teachable learning moment. So don't panic, don't freak out, but just say, hey, I noticed a post. I want to talk to you about that sometime. You've got an opportunity to have a dialogue around that. Now you've got a real data point, a real in-life situation that you can help say, let's talk about why I think it's inappropriate. And again, you're going to have to decide. Your kids are not perfect human beings. You're going to see things that are maybe not what you would like to see, but I would say you've got to hold your criticism for the big things, because if you nitpick on every little thing, they're going to shut down the lines of communication. So save it for those big moments where you say, hey, I don't get on your back a lot, but I really saw something that upset me and I want to tell you why, and it's because I love you and I'm concerned about you, and this is my concern for your future and how you're representing yourself out there, and that's why I'm bringing this up. So hopefully, other people, anyone guilty? Are you guilty of stalking, or are you guilty of just being overly curious about what your kids are doing? Do you stick your nose in? I mean, I think a lot of parents actually know that they...
You're looking at me, I can see it.
Who, me? Who, me? Never! All right, number 4. So the other thing that social media has brought to our lives that we didn't have in the past is challenges. Now, many of you probably have participated in a challenge because, again, there's nothing wrong with challenges. They can be fun. I did the Ice Bucket Challenge. Did you do the Ice Bucket Challenge?
Did.
Lots of people did the Ice Bucket Challenge. This is a great way to use social media and viral communications to amplify a message, which is great if the message is great. Unfortunately, that same phenomena can be on the dark side of the web. And so it's very common, and parents need to realize that there can often be challenges in youth culture that invite kids to use the platform of social media to do something that is actually dangerous. And we know from other postings in my series that the youth brain is wired for risk-taking and excitement. It's evolutionarily designed to want to seek out risk, just so you know. So for example, to put it into context, a popular one just recently that happened was something called neck nominations. And the idea of a neck nomination, which is the hashtag, so for people who aren't on social media, if you have a hashtag before a name, that means that you can pull up using that hashtag, you get everything that shows up in that theme. So if you that are neck nominating, neck comes from, it's an Australian term and has to do with downing a beer. So you neck a beer, you gulp, you binge drink, and then you nominate someone to say, and now I'm going to forward this to somebody else's feed and say, hey, I nominate my buddy Bill. Now Bill has to one up and drink more. And then he then forwards it, and then the next person has to outdo. So now we're going from 1 beer to 3 beers, or whatever it might be, and we're amplifying the level of it to one up, for male bravado. And this is an opportunity to talk to kids about this phenomena. This is one example, but there's other forms of challenges that are dangerous. And so we need to have a conversation with our kids, and the conversation needs to be from a curiosity point of view. Remember that we're talking about adolescents. They want you to know how smart they are. They don't want to be lectured. They want to be in dialogue. And so if you can say to them, why do you think these challenges are so popular? Do you think that your friends know much about, alcohol and the impact of binge drinking, and that actually you can get to a lethal dosage? I mean, it's an opportunity to kind of ask them what they know instead of pushing down facts into their throat, which they're not going to be interested in hearing. So making it a curiosity conversation for them is going to be more likely to engage them. And then where I'd want to kind of reframe it as a parent is to be able to see it as, if you're doing something that is lethal and you're doing it under a challenge like double dog dare you, that's actually really a sign of being a lemming and being weak. That is what is much stronger personality is for someone to say, thanks for the challenge, but I'm not risking my life for you. That's actually the stronger bravado piece, is to actually not be like a lemming and follow the pack. So I think if we can work on that reframe, that actually refusing to do something stupid is strong, going along is weak, I think that's going to give us a bit of a toehold around it. And hashtag don't care not doing it. How about that? Because what we know is that social media is shaping health behaviors. We've seen this actually just recently with a study just came out yesterday, the day before, about breastfeeding. Using hashtag breastfeeding and putting positive breastfeeding images and positive stories about breastfeeding is increasing the number of people that are breastfeeding. Like we can use youth and say people need to post with the hashtag not drinking, hashtag sober, hashtag saying no, whatever it might be. And the more we can move kids to, again, using it as a positive, constructive platform, the less they're going to feel this peer pressure to succumb to some of these challenges. So know your challenges. They come up. We had the Tide Pod Challenge recently. They'll come and go, but you need to keep an eye on those. And again, if you have a good relationship with your kids, they're more likely to tell you what the challenges are. The big ones are going to make it onto mainstream news. So just having your ears and eyes open to it. The next one will come up. You'll have an opportunity to watch for it and be prepared for it. And then the last one is about keeping a balance between this life that kids live on social media, which really is a lifeline for many of them. And I don't negate that. I don't think it's a negative thing at all. I absolutely believe that you can have true virtual friends. There's a real power to that. I'm not dissuading people, and certainly people that sometimes have a hard time socializing with their in real life people in their small communities or in their school or whatever, or have social awkwardness, whatever it might be, they might find that they really feel they're most comfortable socially online. But we need to explain to kids that also, as much as that might feel good and comfortable, that there is a difference in how we want to organize and balance our life. Because the truth is that that virtual person that is talking to you from another part of the world because you guys have been playing Fortnite together, that person can't actually get to you and sit with you in a hospital when you break your leg and you got to be there for 6 hours waiting for a cast. Those people can't be there to hold your hand and rub your back and get you a cup of tea when the family dog gets run over by a car. So it's great that we have these relationships, but when we actually look at what really is healing and whole to people, there's something called, in terms of understanding relationships and connections, there's something called Dunbar's number. And this was a number that was created by an anthropologist, and it looks like a bullseye. And in the middle of the bullseye, he identifies that human beings as social creatures can really, they can handle about 5 people in your kin group. You know, your family, your closest. It may be an aunt, it may be a cousin who's living with, but your kin group is about 5. Then you have your super family. They're the next ring out on the ball. And that's about 15 people. Psychologically, you can have kind of 15 people in that next ring. Then we go to 50 in your clan. And this is what I'm saying. I think most people can look at their Instagram feed and look at those people. And most of those people are clan. The next group is 150. Those are tribe. Clan and tribe. These are people that we don't really have close connections with. I'm not saying they're not important, but it's not your 5 kin. And if you have kids that don't understand the 15 kin and know how to nurture and maintain relationships with their 15 super family, you're going to have a kid who relies on all this interaction with the clan and the tribe, and they're not going to have the same sense of connection and embeddedness that's going to prevent them from having mental health issues, because that feeling of belonging and connection is what is a protective factor for our mental health. So yes, spend all your time online, but if you're doing it and negating the caretaking of what has to happen to those 15 super families and those 5 kin members, then you're doing a disservice. And then social media is not being positive and constructive. And that's really my rule. It's got to be positive. It's got to be constructive. We need to be balanced. So use it as a tool that enhances your life, not something that takes away from your life. So if we can get them to take ownership of the fact that their social media is their tool, and when they're being fed marketing messages about why you should drink underage, that influence, we have to let them know that it is shaping them, and do they want to be shaped in that direction? So for example, we just had the US election. Suddenly they realized, my goodness, there is fake news. There is ways that they tamper with what comes into your feed so that you only hear one side of a story. And once they realize that it can be used as a marketing tool that can be manipulative, now you're empowering them to say, okay, I understand that I can be influenced, and especially teens, because they're so suspicious and they so don't want to be seen as somebody who's weak and being molded. They want to strike their own independence. To inform them that is part of what goes on around social media, that's part of what informs them about the place that alcohol takes in youth's life, that's being told to them that is not true. The truth is, more youth do not drink than drink. And so we are doing a much better job now at reducing underage drinking, and to glamorize it and to never show the consequence and to make it look like it to be popular that you must be drinking underage is part of the social media power. And I want them to realize that they are not passive recipients of that marketing message. I want them to be aware and alert, and I want to show them faith, that I trust them to live by our family values and revisit those. So if you end up with a child who posts a picture at a party and they've got a drink in their hand, what are you going to do? Actually, I'm interested to ask that. Has anyone had drinks appear in a social media situation or have you had your kid call you from a party and you notice that they're stumbling, or you've made it a deal that they have to text you and suddenly it's full of all kinds of typos and you're like, what's going on at the party? I'm curious to know if people have had that experience, because it's another way that we're closer to our kids. We have more opportunity to kind of see what's going on in their private life, but now we have information that we need to respond to. So again, if you're a parent and you see that they're posting pictures live from a party, they're drinking and they're a minor, the first thing I would say is get on the phone. And I know now every parent is laughing at me because they're saying, like my kid would pick up the phone. If kids don't pick up the phone if they think that they're going to be penalized. So I think, again, we can go back to, if you'd like to have the freedom to have a phone and a phone account, then you need to have the responsibility that when I call you, that you pick up the phone and that you don't ignore me. And if you're not okay with that agreement with the phone, then you lose phone privileges, which no kid wants to do. Okay. So first of all, they need to pick up the phone. And the important thing here again is, don't get angry. We want to respond, not react. We need to let them know that we have seen a posting and it's something that we want to talk about. If they're intoxicated, this is not the time for a conversation. We want to restate the values and get the child out of that situation. So it might be, I see that you're drinking at a party, I guess I need to come pick you up, or I need to send a cab for you to get home, or whatever it might be. So you restate the limit and boundary, you enforce a limit and boundary, you do it in a firm and friendly way, and then you have the dialogue after. And I think, again, part of that dialogue is, what are you portraying? You're breaking the law. This isn't just being quirky and fun. You're putting law-breaking behavior online that's public and forever. Again, go to the grandma rule. Do you want grandma to see that? You might be okay with it. Do you want grandma to see it? Do you want your coach to see it? So review that, and again, go back to some of my other videos about asking them what happened, what made it difficult that they couldn't say no, helping them save face, helping them come up with an alternative behavior that they can pull out in the moment and problem solve around it rather than getting all punitive. All right, so that was content. That was a lot of content to cover. Everyone still with me? What are people chatting about online? I'm dying to know, Catherine.
All right, we got some questions.
Okay.
So my daughter would spend all night on Instagram if I let her. How do I determine what is the appropriate time limit for social media?
So again, I think when our kids are little, mostly what they're doing online is often just sort of educational type things like mixing and matching letters, or they're doing just 100% entertainment. They're watching a movie. They're watching some, it's basically replacing television for kids. And so back, screen time with little kids are basically saying, kind of like an hour or two a day is like maximum for all screens across all times. Mom's phone in the grocery store, whatever it might be. But it starts to get a little bit more complicated when you start getting into the teen years, because when kids are on screens and interfacing with technology, they're doing so many different things online that you can't really qualify it by time constraints. And what I mean by that is they might be updating their bank account, they might be doing a Google Doc share for a homework project, they might be online to the school's website to find out whether or not tomorrow is gym day, and there's so many things that we do, that we interact through a screen, that to say you can only live your life through a screen for 2 hours it's just not realistic. In fact, they say something like 6 to 8 hours a day for the average Canadian youth that's online. It's about what they're doing online. And so the tracking of, is it just Snapchat, which is just being silly and recording their life and whatever, versus productive, constructive, producing, using creativity to put something out to the world, those types of things. Is it active? Is it passive? Is it constructive? There's a whole kind of paradigm around what those activities are. That's what we want to be talking about when we talk to our kids about balance. So one thing that you might just say to her is, hey, I want to make sure that you are leading the life that you would like to lead. That at the end of the year, when you say of all the things that I wanted to do, that I did what I wanted to do. I want to have good friends, I want whatever it might be. And then you can do a capture of what their tech time is in their life. And there are tools. Again, you can go to commonsensemedia.org and ask what are tracking tools, and say, would you like to know where you're spending your time online? And let's see if it really reflects what you've told me are your values and your goals for the year. And most people are very unaware. It's like, holy crap, are you kidding me? I'm spending a third of my life on Snapchat? That's not interesting to me. So I think we do it as a curiosity experiment of actually tracking and getting some objective data through some of these apps, and then having a conversation about what do you think is a reasonable amount of time? How enmeshed do you want to be around that? And so it's through having the dialogue and setting goals together, then you can actually say, would it be helpful if we put a limit on? Would it be helpful if we had it shut down after so much time? A lot of these apps now will count you down and say, you know what, that's it. You said you wanted to be on Snapchat for an hour today. You're at 55 minutes. You got 5 minutes to wrap it up. And it'll help create a limit and a boundary through technology in order to keep that contained. But you can't impose that on your kids because they'll just hack around it, right? So I think it's a bigger dialogue about what does a good life look like. So I'm not going to give you a number for you, which may frustrate you, but I've given you some of the factors and kind of the way to go about having that conversation. Yeah.
Okay. My daughter obsesses over how many likes she gets on a post and will delete the post if she doesn't get enough. How do I explain to her that her value shouldn't be based on a like?
Yeah. And it shouldn't, and it's great that you're seeing this. And so again, we're looking at how social media becomes a social comparator and how people use it as a popularity platform. And again, we all know what it's like to be the popular kid at school, to have the right, brand name, whatever, so that you get accepted. I think we've all had that angst. I think we've all had that pain. So I don't think that it's, you're going to have a kid that's like, oh, thank you. I think what we have to do is work with them to understand that is, to your point, this is technology that is artificially inflating qualities of people. And I get that you want to ensure that you've got a good friend group and that you are supported and then you look like you're doing what youth do today. But the minute we make our other referent, if that word makes sense to people, but when we use social comparators, we're pretty much signing up for misery. And so the fact that you could say it to me is something that you could absolutely say to your child. You know, that does not measure those likes and not likes and who's looking and fear of missing out and all those things do not replace those kin numbers of 5 and that super family of 15. That's just bravado and looking cool out in that virtual world. And those people that have all high numbers can be just as miserable and lonely and not good friends. And the people that have a few numbers and a couple people like them could absolutely be in the best relationships and healthy and content. And so it's really not a measure. So just keep having that conversation. Yeah.
Do you think it's an invasion of privacy if I have my children's social accounts logged in on my own phone as a way to keep an eye on it?
So long as they know that you made it a condition of having their social media accounts, and so long as you are not watching them constantly, that it's a spot check as opposed to constantly following the stream, and that you're acknowledging only the parts that really need to be changed. The part, like I said, you only in the adolescent years, you maybe have 3 to 5 big no's. Don't waste it over, hey, I heard you using a 4-letter swear word with your buddy. Like, I'm going to really save up my nose for things going off the rail. Yeah.
Okay. Would you suggest that we create a social media contract with our kids before we let them sign up?
I don't mind contracts. I think, the thing about something like this, say again, the commonsensemedia.org, is it is something that you can sit down together and like look at checklists. And same thing, Facebook, we have checklists. This is your responsibility, this is my responsibility, this is what I expect. I have no trouble with clarity. But I'll tell you, both my kids would have thought a contract was belittling them. They would have thought that it was hokey, that it was me using artificial power over them. It would not have flown with my kids. Now that's not so. I mean, if I printed out and made them actually like sign it. But that's my kids. If your kids like structure and you want to make sure that everything's kind of been discussed or whatever, and you feel that you can like pull that off, then great. I'm not opposed to it. But parents, it can be cheesy. If you got mature kids, I got to sign a contract. I mean, do you sign a contract with your husband? I guess we sign marriage contracts. See if those hold up. It can feel disingenuous. That's all I'm saying. So if you feel like you can do it in a light spirit, then absolutely go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Should we have specific consequences attached to misbehavior on social media, and how do we determine what those misbehaviors are?
Mm-hmm. So I do believe in consequences. But I think really where we tend to over consequence. First of all, we confuse consequences with punishments. A lot of people end up punishing nicely. So you have to be very specific in what a consequence is. And there's confusion about that. Consequences need to be related. They need to be respectful and revealed in advance. That's kind of like the golden rule. So the hard part for parents is the revealed in advance. That's great. That's what the contract will do. If you do this, this is what I will do. The consequence is spelled out in advance in the contract. But how do you make it related? What would be the specific consequence? I think, to be able to say you won't be, you'll have to not be online for X amount of time could potentially be there. And, and they won't like that. And that's one way to go. But when we shift our thinking as parents and say, something went wrong, I could consequent them, and maybe they won't do it again. But what I'd rather do is problem solve, because I think it's more powerful. Problem solving is a focus on the future. Because after you say you can't have your phone for a day or you can't go online for a day, and then they go back online, they're going to be faced with the same problem. And either they're just going to hide it from you better. I want to say a problem came up. What did we learn from it? And what are we going to do moving forward? I think it's more impactful. So, for example, let's say someone's bullying someone online and you discover this. Yeah, I can take away your phone, but that doesn't actually educate them on what it would be like to be bullied. Whereas if you say, you know what, I'd like you to interview, somebody who was bullied as a child and have them talk about their experience. Now they've got a writing project or whatever, but now they're like, oh my gosh, I never really saw it from that other person's perspective. That stayed with that person for the whole rest of their lives. That's way more powerful in changing behavior than taking away a phone and giving it back. So it's not that I'm anti-consequences. It's just, we need a problem that needs a solution, and we need to remediate what has happened. And parents need to be really creative in coming up with what that would look like. How would we change attitudes, change behaviors so that it doesn't happen again? And I think consequences fall short often.
One more?
Sure, one more.
Okay.
Yes, we started a bit late. So
my son has posted a couple of inappropriate photos of him at parties. When I bring it to his attention, he just says I'm judging him. I've been tempted to just delete the photos as he's in the process of applying for college. How do you feel about that?
So I wouldn't. So how, if he's, I think he would. I think if you're deleting his pictures, that's, I think, going to be like throwing gasoline on the fire. I think you want to talk to him about. He's saying you're judging me, and I would want to go deeper into that conversation to say, somehow this is coming across as you and me being against one another. In fact, you're applying for college. I care deeply about you, and I want to make sure that when the colleges are looking at your online autobiography, that it is as shining and brilliant, as beautiful as I know you are, so that you follow your dreams. And that this might seem inconsequential to you, but to those people who can pick and choose the best people, this is one way to throw you in the don't accept pile by the dean's office, and that concerns me. So we are having our own tech difficulties today, so I think that's a cue that we better wrap up, but I want to just cover off a few things. One is, please take just 3 minutes to fill in the survey, follow the link. The first 100 people that fill in the survey have a gift card of $5 from Tim Hortons that we're going to send out to you, and anyone who's engaged, commented, or done the survey, your name will be put into a draw for a $250 Visa card. If this has been important and you want to get this information out to your friends, please share it on your page. All of my past archive Facebook Lives are there as well. Visit my YouTube channel for more tips. And we will be talking again. We've got another one coming up. What's our deadline here? Checking.
One in a couple of weeks.
We've got another one in a couple.
Yeah, October 4th, I think.
Yeah. Stay tuned to my feed because we're going to be having another one in a few weeks. So we'll see you then, and hopefully we'll figure out the Wi-Fi. Thanks. Have a good night.